Hey kiddos, thanks for joining me for episode 4 of Chronicles in Collecting, where we're going to take a look at Soul of Chogokin GX68 GaoGaiGar and 68X, the Star GaoGaiGar Option Set Ultimate King of Braves version. While we get this thing unboxed, I'm going to give a little bit of a primer on GaoGaiGar. GaoGaiGar is the 8th installment in a series called The King of Braves. It's the final installment in that show. It's a 1997 anime with 49 episodes. It had a 8-episode follow-up called GaoGaiGar Final. Now, what this show is about... Alright, it's a pretty complicated show, but it's a pretty simple plot. It kind of follows what I would call the first rule of robot shows, which is one side has a bunch of cool robots and mechs, and the other side has a bunch of cool robots and mechs, and for whatever reason, they fight amongst each other, and the reasons don't really matter. But we'll try to get into some of the specifics. Basically, there is this alien civilization, and they create a robot called Galleon, who is the base of this guy. It's kind of like a lion that has both a lion form and a human form, or not a human form, but a kind of more traditional robot form. That Galleon comes down to Earth with a boy named Mamoru, and they give him to this like nice couple in the woods, sort of like a Superman situation. Sometime after that, Galleon comes back to Earth when there is an attack from some alien invader, and there is a corporation doing some work in space, aptly named the Space Defense Corporation, and their satellite gets destroyed or something, and their like main scientist guy, who is conveniently enough named Guy, gets attacked and almost killed. Galleon the lion, wards the villain off and saves Guy, brings him back to Earth, where Galleon is stolen, taken by the Space Defense Corporation, and sort of studied for scientific purposes. The alien race are these race of people called Zonders. I'm going to keep explaining the show, but I would recommend if you're actually interested to learn the plot, you should just watch the opening. I could link to it on YouTube. The opening the words of the opening just recite the plot. There's like, here's everybody's name, here's all the villains' names, here's everyone's pictures, and they're fighting for whatever reason. Anyway, so you have these Zonders, you have the Space Defense Corporation. They make their own like kind of black ops squad called the Gutsy Geoid Group. And they use Galleon as well as like some blueprints that are like embedded into its DNA to devise a bunch of other robots for Earth's defense in case the Zonders ever attack again. Amongst those are the Driller Gao, which are these legs here, the Stealth Gao, which are these wings, the Liner Gao, which is this train. You have Guy, he's the first part. When Guy and Galleon merge together, they become GaiGar. And then when those form with the Gao machines, those make GaoGaiGar. This show has a fascination with G's. I've already mentioned 2 different triple G combinations. There's at least 1 or 2 more kind of mentioned in the show. So this is GaoGaiGar's sort of first form, of which there's, I think, like 6 or 7 different GaoGaiGar forms. So this figure is a Soul of Chogokin. It was retailed for 33,000 yen, which is about $300 US. I believe it came out in around 2015. I was able to pick it up for about that. I think on the secondary market right now, it's going for maybe like $350-ish, so you can still get it if you're interested. It was re-released at the end of last year for basically the same price, and as far as my understanding, it's the exact same figure, exact same mold, exact same colors. It has the same kind of model number and everything. This is the first version, but like I said, I believe the second is exactly the same. This guy over here is the option set. So this one also had 2 releases and 2 different versions. The first one came out, I believe, also in 2015. And that one, I couldn't find an original listing for it, but I saw one site that had an old record that was selling it for about $180. It was re-released at the end of, actually it was released in Japan at the end of last year and in the US this year for $220 US and 22,000 yen. And this is actually still available on Amazon for the retail price. So this is so the first version of the option set and the second version, they have the same contents, but what makes this one the ultimate King of Braves version is that the all the gold around here is just like a more like shiny gold color than the original one. The original one was like a little bit more dull, and this is kind of like a chrome one. They also released another GaoGaiGar figure, which we'll be doing in another video. Also, that one had an Ultimate King of Braves version that was golder. Kind of had this like cool chrome effect. I don't know why they didn't do it with GaoGaiGar. I don't know how it's going to look when you combine it. I suspect it'll probably look pretty cool because gold's kind of like a sweet color. So, like I said, this is GaoGaiGar's first form. Naturally, when he goes into space, he needs a second updated form, which is where we have Star GaoGaiGar, which adds a... Well, we'll open up and see in a second, but it's going to replace the Stealth Gao with the Stealth Gao 2, and it gets a few new weapons and a few new attacks. GaoGaiGar will go on to have a number of other forms. At the end of the show, Galleon leaves the Earth, and they make a new robot, and that forms with the Gao machines to make GaoGaiGar. The Phi is for fighting. There's also like an evil alternate universe version of GaoGaiGar, which looks pretty much exactly the same. And then finally there is Genesic GaoGaiGar, which is sort of like when GaoGaiGar becomes like Super Saiyan. He's like all gold, he's got this weird mullet, he has a tail. It's like his super like ultimate form. And I believe kind of later on in the comics he gets another version called like GaoGaiGo or something. I've not read those manga. I don't believe they've actually come out in the US. So this is going to be GaoGaiGar's second form, which is mostly for his space adventures in the latter half of the show. So I'm going to put GaoGaiGar to the side for a second while we take a look at all of his weapons. So my first reaction is this stuff is humongous. I mean, just take a look at just how big that is sort of in comparison to the figure. So I'm looking forward to that. I think one thing that really, if you read kind of some comments online, and I think the first thing that comes to mind when you're taking a look at this is that, like, why is this so expensive? Obviously the figure itself was about $300 and the option set is like $200. And I think, obviously part of that is just this size is just ridiculous. I think that the pictures online don't really do the size of this justice. It just, how big this is. So anyway, so you got these two boosters here. And you got these like chrome rings that go on top of them. We'll attach those in a second. And then you have the Stealth Gao 2, which is also really nice. And that will replace the Stealth Gao 1. And obviously this kind of point at the top is sort of what gives him the namesake. Actually, no, sorry. This point at the top is sort of what gives him the namesake of Star GaoGaiGar. You also get another add-on head with the cool chrome plating over there, which is nice. And then you get one of his weapons. Which is, I believe, called the Gatling Driver. In his original form, he had the Dividing Diver, which I have over here. So basically what this weapon does is, like I said, in the first half of the show, GaoGaiGar is mostly fighting on Earth. Obviously, if you're having a giant robot battle on Earth, there's going to be a lot of destruction, so they designed this weapon that basically creates this like compressed time-space, which basically just lets them have a fight without making any destruction or kind of destroying any houses or killing anybody, and just sort of lets them run wild. That ability is less useful in space, So they give him this weapon, which has sort of two different modes to it. One kind of freezes people kind of in place, and I believe like somehow they do some sort of like hand wavy explanation that can create a similar effect as the dividing driver when necessary, sure. And then it has another effect that basically lets it kind of focus beam attacks. So sort of one offensive version and one defensive version. And let's put that on the side for a second over here. Ooh, that's gonna fall down. I'll put that to the side over here. And then we also have all this stuff over here, so let's quickly get into what this is. So there's kind of two parts of this here. So this bottom part over here, this is just like a really fancy stand. You could probably tell, and we'll take a look at it when I bring it back over here, but you know, the GaoGaiGar, it's a little top heavy. So I think having a stand where it's sort of elevated and can make some different poses will definitely be an upgrade there. And to be completely honest, it's the stand that really drew me to this, just kind of having a customized stand for this figure. And then there are some effect parts on the bottom here, which are used for the Stealth Gao 2. I had mentioned one difference between this and the prior version was kind of the chrome plating. Another difference is that in the original option parts version, the stand was black instead of teal. Obviously in this one, you know, it kind of gives you a teal stand to sort of match the teal energy effects, which the original version did. So I guess they thought that would look kind of nice. I kind of like the black stand more, but you know, this one will definitely definitely pop next to all of the other ones. So I'm going to take a quick break and try to figure out what the heck is going on with all of these pieces. All right, everyone, and we are back. We have Star GaoGaiGar built here. We got these giant boosters on his Stealth Gao wings. We got the Gatling driver here. Got the new chrome head. It's a little bit brighter than the kind of part on the lion portion of his chest, but it does match these ones on the side, and we kind of went with a teal on black versus kind of the full teal. I mean, I said this in the posing video that I also put up with this one, which is quite long but entertaining towards the middle. Could be fun to skip around. You know, I thought that the original version of this figure without the option sets was a little bland. You know, like I had said, there's a lot of detail on the individual parts, but then when you kind of put it all together, all you really see are like the bland parts. So I feel like to remedy that, they put these like giant boosters and all these things and all this gold chrome to sort of distract you. And maybe that does say a lot about a show where they just make a bunch of cool robots that fight, where it's just like, you know, your eyes are drawn to the really cool stuff. You know, put together, this whole thing is probably like, you know, $500 to $550 worth of figure to get this, and this is not even all of GaoGaiGar. There is still more to him to add. You know, could I say that this is really worth $550? I don't know about that, but when you look at it on the shelf, you're like, this guy is the guy you want on your team when you're fighting, right? This GaoGaiGar. If you were looking at everybody and you're like, oh well, who am I gonna draft for this battle? You want this guy. So that being said, it's a cool figure. GaoGaiGar, the show is fun. It's kind of very episodic until about halfway through, maybe even a little bit more. I think the end of the show is really awesome, and the follow-up show is a lot of fun, and that kind of lives up to its true promise. The follow-up show is aimed at a little bit more of a mature audience, not just in as far as storytelling sophistication, not content. So I would definitely recommend, I would certainly recommend and almost require everybody watch the opening to GaoGaiGar. It's like 2 minutes. Definitely watch that. You know, if that tweaks your interest, maybe check out the show. This figure, I don't know if I could really recommend it at the price. If you love GaoGaiGar like I do, it's worth it, but otherwise, I think it's just way more trouble than it's worth. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out this video. Please make sure to check out the other videos on the channel. New videos go up every Wednesday, and please make sure to join me for the next episode in Chronicles Collection, where we will take on the RX-78 GP02A Gundam GP02A. We'll also be doing a primer on Mobile Suit Gundam Stardust Memories. Thanks so much. Have a good one. Keep collecting.